Hello, Sherlock here, and I'm going to give a quick overview on the Oberez. I forget the username of the gentleman who's buying it, but just to go over how some of the stuff works. So obviously, your gas, you technically don't have to cycle it all the way back, but it's a pretty decent muzzle pop. Safety, like on a real Nagant, it's like this weird system here. So if the bolt's down, sort of pull back on the bolt here and you flick it to the left, and now the hammer can't drop. You can squeeze the trigger, nothing happens. And if you pull it back and let it go back to center, it'll fire. So disassembly, on our bottom here we have mag catch. Mag comes out, there's this little Allen key in there for the CO2. I won't pull it out just yet, but it won't ship with a CO2 cartridge in it. So to remove the bolt, pull the trigger, bolt slides out. You want to be careful because this thing can sort of flop out. But basically this black track faces backwards and lines up here, and then this is sort of toothed in there. Okay, so just to cover, so for shipping I'm thinking it would be a bit easier lengthwise and stuff for me to remove the grip. So that is just this one screw back here that holds that on. Just a big old flathead. There we have the custom grip. And just for shipping, I'm made a spacer here to go in there. Basically just to hold our gapping secure. I also think if customs inspects this for some reason, I don't know, it might be more believable that it's parts. So just snug that up. And then of course this can still fit there. I guess if you really wanted to, you could still use it in some way like this, but it's a nice handle. Okay, so other important bits up top here. We have a M3 grub screw. Let us zoom in. M3 grub screw. So obviously it's a TDC style hop up. Clockwise is more. I would recommend probably, currently it's pretty well adjusted for 0.25s. It didn't seem to want to shift or move on me, but if it does, you may want to pull it out, put some blue Loctite or thread locker on it. I would maybe just let it dry on it and then drive it in, so it has some sticking but without necessarily like locking it into position. Otherwise you can put some Loctite on it, put it in, shoot and adjust for whatever weight you plan to use. Obviously, being CO2 and this system, it's not perfect. It's pretty good, but so here, this is how the BBs get fed in, and there's a lot of play here, as well as the sealing between this pushy dude and the valve here isn't perfect. So the air can enter a little bit of variance. So it's not quite going to be a sniper pistol, but it's going to be reasonable. So to remove our outer barrel here, you will, or the front half of the gun, if you will, underneath this front screw, I've tucked away a grub screw. So under here, or in here, there is a, what is it, 7-4? Actually, I can't remove it without removing this, so I won't do it. But in this hole, there is a grub screw Yeah, there we go. This is a 2.5 Allen key grub screw that locks essentially this front portion in. So if you need to access or service the barrel slash hop-up unit, pull out that front screw, undo the grub screw there, fully remove this grub screw up top for the hop-up. Then this will slide out. There's 2 small screws going into the sides that you'll see in the part that comes out here. That's what holds the hop-up unit in place, and then you'll be able to slide out the hop-up unit, which then has 2 grub screws that go into the C-clip notches on the AEG barrel. That's like a whole whopping 2 inches or, I don't know, however many centimeters long. So that's sort of the quick and dirty tour of how or where everything is. The bucking is not a standard AEG bucking. It is actually a bucking for a gas blowback style. So the VFC Reaps bucking is what is in there. It should, realistically, probably for as much as practical uses you have, it shouldn't really ever need to be replaced. But the big difference there is the lips on it are flush and it's thick. So you have like 2-3 millimeters of rubber lips, so that'll help. It helps create some space between the BB and the bucking mound, as well as it sort of seals up with the flush face on this guy. So that is, I think, in short, everything. It does still on the side have some of the other trademarks, caliber stuff. I thought about trying to weather it, or even completely stripping it and or using some of the bluing solution that they make for aluminum that I believe is supposed to work on pot metal. But yeah, I wasn't too sure of that. The front of the barrel here is silver in color because it's been chopped down there. Other than that, I don't think there's too much else to talk about on it. It's really, honestly, quite a simple device. To get the bolt back in, slide it in, pull your trigger, ta-da, it's there. So nothing super fancy. I was chronoing it with 0.2s, sub 350. It was anywhere from like 340 was 330, 340. Was maybe the top that I was getting, was realistically more 320 to 330. It was only like with a fresh CO2 cartridge, or maybe it was an outlier that was getting up there particularly high. Given the barrel length and stuff, I would highly expect it to be very jewel creepy, if that is your shtick. But personally, I don't like to use jewel creep or abuse it, but I understand that it happens. Like I said, I was shooting 0.25s. I'd say it wasn't that much. I wouldn't describe it as better or worse than like a stock like WE pistol or something like that. Remarkably, it did seem to have, compared to that, more of the occasional flyer compared to some of the other guns that I've used, but overall not as bad as I was expecting. We'll put it that way. BBs, it holds 12. You can pull this back, lock it in, and you have to sort of feed them in down through here. You can get more of these mags. I think they're like 30-ish. I'll just probably vent this. Have no clue on the gas efficiency of it. But imagine that it's reasonable. You can probably shoot at least 10 mags before you start decreasing. I know it's sort of designed to shoot for a larger barrel and at a higher FPS, so I think obviously we're technically using a lot more gas than is needed on such a short thing, but I mean it helps give it a bit of the muzzle pop, which is kind of cool. So yeah, plan on shipping it probably something like this orientation. I'll get it in some nice padded foam. I'll shoot you some messages to how we want to insure it and other things. I'll see what I can do price-wise and or shipping-wise when I have it, I guess, in a final shipping configuration. I just rough estimated it and seen that it was higher before, so I wanted to double check with you before moving up. But yeah, there it is.